Hi, welcome to DramaMeans. We're talking about the 2024 Korean BL drama, The Time of Fever. Today, drama means unspeakable love, drama means unspeakable pain, and drama means making you hold your breath through the whole story.
And a little bit of a summary. When he transfers schools, a young student reunites with a childhood friend, and the two quickly grow a lot closer. But as deep-seated romantic feelings begin to bubble up for them both, they question whether they can, or even should, actually be together.
So, this drama is actually a movie. It was released in theaters in Korea. International fans had to wait and wait and wait. And I was literally looking at CGV, times to see if, maybe it was going to be released.
So the Koreatown CGV,
yeah. And so I was, waiting and waiting, and it was always, the same couple of movies. I feel like...
Well, they only have, 2-3 screens there, I think, at CGV.
Well, yeah, and then I guess, they had, the screens, opened a bunch of, American movies and whatnot, so there wasn't a whole lot going on. And so I was waiting and it just wasn't coming. And then finally they had released it's going to be out in September. And then everyone's excited. And then I still kept thinking it's going to be out in theaters in September, for international fans. So I was still looking at the CGV website to see if it was going to be in the theater. Because of course I would rather see it in the theater. Didn't happen. And then they released it on iQIYI. But it's been chopped up, and it's 6 episodes, and it's just, with little epilogues at the end of each episode, and I don't particularly like it.
It's a weird choice. Why do you think they actually did that rather than just giving it, even if you're not going to give it a theatrical release, why not just release it on iQIYI as a movie? Would they not get as much traffic if it was a movie versus a series? What do you think?
I'm not really sure if it has anything to do with rights, some kind of whatever agreement iQIYI had, because Unintentional Love was also aired on iQIYI, so as the drama. So I don't know how what the contract is.
So maybe they just weren't even allowed to air it as a movie.
Maybe.
So they had to air it the way that they did.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I don't know any of the logistics behind, the business part of things.
Right.
And I do think it's a business part.
I mean, it seems like it would have to be. I don't understand creatively why you would do it. It kind of frustrated me because it felt like every time this story started to gain momentum for me, it had kind of an artificial break.
Yeah.
And then it gave you an epilogue that, to me, didn't really add to the story. It was just hey, here's an epilogue of a moment you didn't see, but it was kind of a little bit of a who cares. And it just, I get why, here's a little something, it just didn't do much. I was just no, just keep giving me the story, keep building on this momentum that you've created. But it just kept letting the air out of the balloon to me.
Yeah, I agree with that. With the epilogues, I think some worked better than others. There were some really unnecessary ones, and I'm oh yeah, I wish this didn't, stop your story. I did also feel each episode, every time all the tension is very built up and then the episode ends and you're oh, and then I have to start my emotions over again. But then also, because the movie, I feel the tension is done so well that I found myself holding my breath a lot. And I'm if I had to hold my breath throughout the whole movie, I might have died.
I mean, they released it as a series so they wouldn't kill us. They're listen, people in Korea were passing out in the theaters. It was a problem. So we're going to have to release this in bite-sized chunks because you just can't handle it.
I do, I don't know. It definitely was. I didn't like it. I didn't like the fact that it was cut into episodes. I wish it was the full movie. We could have watched the full movie. And as I said, the buildup of their relationship and the tension was like so strong that I felt like cutting it into episodes really hindered the story itself.
Yeah, I wonder what I would think of this if I had watched it as a movie, because all of my big issues with this story are that it did feel like the tension was built and deflated and built and deflated. And I felt teased, and I didn't get there with the holding the breath. I didn't get all the way there because I felt like, you're talking and you're like telling a story you're really excited to tell, and then someone keeps interrupting you to like ask of like minute details of the story, and you're like, it doesn't matter what color shirt I was wearing, just shut up and fucking listen. That's how I felt watching this, where I just felt like I was getting in my own way, or the structure was getting in my way of enjoying it. And I was just kind of like perturbed because I just felt like just the reset button was pressed so often that I'm like, okay, wait, where are we now? Where are we again? Okay, where were they 10 minutes ago before I like got up and went to the bathroom? And like, I just could never get on this train. And it really did the story a disservice, I think.
I agree. I definitely agree that it definitely did the story a disservice. But when you think about the story itself, I also think that, I mean, it's good to know where they came from, but I know you didn't watch Unintentional Love, so you don't really know like where this relationship had led to. And so this is essentially just the couple's backstory. And generally, when we think about backstory, it's like the part that we really didn't need to know.
It just sets up our main story. It's the stuff that makes us lean into the story we're watching and put context to it. And a lot of backstory is just context.
Yeah. And so I kind of wish that we just got the main story and not their background, because we know where this all went. So we watched Unintentional Love Story, and we grew to like this couple, Hote and Donghee. But we know where they're going to be. They hadn't gotten together yet. And I think what all the audience wants to see is them to be together and how they actually get together. So I think we needed something where, even if we do see their backstory, I don't think their ending of this movie was strong enough for it to be a standalone movie.
Well, it couldn't be, I think, by definition, because of where their story goes in the series. And I didn't watch the series, but I knew that they didn't get together in the series. So I knew this story was kind of handcuffed by those limitations. So you're handcuffing your romance by the story you've already seen. And I started to question what this story really is. It is definitely part of a story. It just didn't feel like a story on its own, which is my main problem with prequels in general, is they never feel like stories on their own. They always feel like they're just relying so heavily on the love that you have for either the characters or the world or the canon or whatever you want to say, but they're not really giving you much nutrition. And so going into this, I was like, well, where is this really going to go? Because they can't get together, because that invalidates what has already come before. And if this whole show is going to be a prequel, what do they do? And it kind of felt like they ran out of runway really fast.
Yeah, essentially, I feel like this is more fan service than it is a complete movie. Although I do think, again, I said they did the romantic tension really well. They did the sexual tension really well. The acting was great in it. It's just like, that's all we kind of get. And I do like that things that they mentioned in Unintentional Love Story, brought it back and serviced most everything. They didn't service the watch thing again, which I thought the watch was like kind of a big element in their relationship, where he like gifts Dong-hee this watch from like, the little gotcha machines. Right. And they never brought that back, but it was like supposed to be like a gift that he had given him on his birthday. And I just felt like we're missing that.
Right.
Like, but that was the only real thing that they didn't mention in the movie, where they mention in the drama, Unintentional Love Story. So those were great. It's just that I felt like what it really should have been was we get the backstory, and then, which also I think it would give you a better Won Young cameo instead of what we got. It was like, oh, they just run into each other at a bookstore, and it kind of confused me because I thought Won Young was quite a bit younger than them in Unintentional Love Story, but the way that they have it now, it almost seems they're about the same age. And so to me, it kind of doesn't
quite track.
Yeah. So whatever it is, but I think the better cameo for him is if you have your backstory, we get all that, and then it cuts to, like kind of where we left off, and like they're, Hote is about to court Dong-hee again,
Yeah, right.
And it's just like, and then we get a little taste of it at the end. We see Won Young still like kind of hanging out with them, and like, or maybe encouraging or teaching Hote how to, pursue Dong-hee. We get a little bit of that romance cut. We get a taste of it. We want more. And then it goes into, maybe we're going to have a season 2 where it's Hote and Dong-hee's actual romantic journey into like being a couple.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from with that. It makes my head spin a little bit, just as a person who didn't watch the series and sitting down to watch this and wanting to experience a story where the fan service will all be lost on me. I don't like fan service anyway. I think fan service is a way for writers and directors and filmmakers to bilk us out of our money while not having to actually entertain us. Like, it's such low-hanging fruit. It's like, yeah, there's certain jokes that a comedian can tell that everyone will laugh because it's just super low-hanging fruit. But you're not going to learn anything. You're not going to like gain anything. You're not going to discover anything about the characters or yourself, and it's not going to be meaningful or memorable, So having them kind of do the before and after, I think for a new audience would almost just lose me. Like, I'd be like, wait, what? Because I don't have I'm missing the context of the middle part.
Yeah.
So I don't understand what they've been through in the time being. It would go from, we can't be together here. Cut to, okay, we're going to try. Huh? So I get what you're saying. And I think most people that watch this probably have watched the series. So I'm in the minority there. But I did think they needed something more because this didn't feel complete. And I don't know, for me personally, even if I was a huge fan of this and loved the fan service, it's just not enough. It's like, we talked about it with Wolverine and Deadpool, or Deadpool and Wolverine, whatever the hell that movie was called. It's just 2.5 hours of fan service. And after a while, you just go, like, the jokes get progressively less funny rather than they get funnier as you go, because you're like, yes, oh, great, another quippy reference about, I don't know, the soccer club Ryan Reynolds owns, just like, who cares at that point?
Yeah.
So for me, I want more, especially in a romantic story. Yeah, I want to feel it, and it was hard for me.
So I did feel their romance. I felt their longing for each other. I think the two actors did really well in like conveying what they're feeling, what they want, and their hesitation. My only thing is, I feel like, and I understand that you could, you know, debate that Dongyi's character was younger then, and he's, gone through a few years away from college and then coming back and into the town, and then also, 2 years into that of living back in that town. Um, his character might have changed, but I feel like his character from Unintentional Love Story was very like talkative and like open and kind of almost like comedic.
Right. Yeah. Like he was. What is the word I'm looking for? It's outgoing.
Yeah, super outgoing, energetic, and just like more confident. And his character in the movie, he was reserved, he was hesitant, he was quiet, he didn't smile much, he didn't talk that much. Um, it almost felt like a different character.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, there was some similarities, but for the most part, it didn't feel like they're the same person.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if part of that was super intentional as far as in the movie version here, the prequel, he is kind of denying himself and he's
Mm-hmm.
forced to deny who he is over and over and over again. He can't have who he loves. He can't be who he is openly. He can't even be at home. And I think maybe going off to college and then now in his, new life, his post-college life, the cafe or whatever, he's kind of found himself a little bit, which enables him to be a different person. So I think maybe that's a real intentional choice. But I could understand how that would throw you off when you're watching because it does feel like you're tuning in to see a different human being.
Yeah. I understand. I understand like that it could be, after so many years, and he's grown up, he's found himself, he's more confident about himself, he has already acknowledged his own identity. I get that, but because as an audience, you're like, you kind of want to feel that they're the same character.
Oh, absolutely.
So you kind of need to give us something where, the different similarities that you can still see.
I feel like they could have used the friend that was on the swim team that was kind of like his buddy, but like they had so little screen time together. And I feel like they could have showed him a little more relaxed with someone who was kind of like, I know who you are. We're cool. And he wasn't romantically, not entangled is the wrong word, but interested.
Yeah.
And I thought they maybe could have used that. They just didn't really take the opportunity.
Yeah, I agree.
So I know that you really felt the emotions between them. I will say the highlight of this for me is the acting. I think both of the actors are very good. The the chemistry is very good. I think it's shot really well. There was some cinematography choices that like I felt like they just kind of blew everything out a little too much, or things were a little too moody. And I get sometimes we want to like paint with light and like paint our emotions with light, but I felt like they overdid it a little bit here, and they were being a little too hammy, and it started to feel inconsistent rather than setting a mood, which is such a fine line. Some things can like set a mood in every single scene. Where you think back to like the Soderbergh Traffic, where half the movie's blue and the rest of the half, the movie's very warm, depending on where you are and who's in the scenes and whether you're with the traffickers or so like it can be done really well. I just felt this was a little bit uneven, and I think it wouldn't bother 99% of people, so I can't really count that much against it. I think my biggest struggle was logically I kind of understood everything. And maybe it's partly like my reading of subtitles and like just always feeling like I'm a step behind. Like sometimes I do feel like, and this is a personal thing, this has nothing to do with anything else. But when I'm reading subtitles, it's almost like you're reading it very literally. You lose some of the romance or the chemistry in the reading of it because maybe I'm reading too slow or I'm not reading every word. I'm kind of dyslexic like that, or I'm like, I was like, yeah, I get it. So I logically understood everything. I just didn't feel everything. I wanted to, and I knew what they wanted me to feel. I just couldn't get there because of the things we've talked about, because of the structure and then chopping it up and subtitles and just there's just too many things that made me go, oh, rather than, oh, And so I wanted more from it. And I think a part of it, the problem being a prequel, and I knew that they couldn't go all the way there. And so it just felt like a lot of pressure building up. But I also, in the back of my mind keeps telling me, it's not going to add up to anything. It's not going to add up to anything. And I couldn't shut that voice off. And that's no one's fault but my own. But also, it's a little bit their fault for making a prequel. Just say it.
Yeah, I really don't know why they didn't make a sequel rather than...
Well, maybe you do, though, because they are going to make a sequel, and they would get more money if they make 3 rather than making 2.
Yeah.
It's all about the money.
It's always about the money. Yeah, so, but as I said before, I do think that we should have gotten a little bit of, like, them ending, him going back to the town and they run into each other at the beach, like that, and then the smile towards each other, it didn't feel complete. It also felt like they were jerking us off because we know what happens in Unintentional Love. They spend the next 2 years, 3 years, like, not really talking to each other or just, like, kind of bickering and arguing with each other. And so, like, that, like, nice, gentle smile that they give each other basically meant nothing. And this is why I feel like they should have given us, like, 3/4 of a prequel and then a quarter of, like, a little bit of just, oh, that tension is still there between them after all these years. Hote is like, I haven't forgotten about you. I'm going to start pursuing you. And it's like, and even in Unintentional Love Story, like, the way he pursued him was just like, go out with me, go out with me. Texting, go out with me, be my boyfriend, go out with me. And I'm like, dude, we need more. We need, like, a little bit more romance from, like, and he is, like, quite childish, and I feel like he didn't quite, like, grow up in all these years.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, I am usually on the side of, like, you know what? We should all be aiming to sell out as artists. Like, if someone showed up at your front door and said, hey, we're going to pay you $1 million for the DramaMeans Podcast, you'd be like, sold. We're going to do this for McDonald's. DramaMeans, brought to you by McDonald's. I'm so ready to sell out and take the money. But when things feel like they're being decided solely for money, like things exist only because the cash they produce, then I get a little upset, because to me, it should work the other way. The art should be valuable enough to get the money, not how can we make the money? I have an idea, this thing, and we'll call it art. Like, no. Like, that didn't need to exist. What needs to exist is the extension of our story. You've told us already. What we didn't really need was kind of a bunch of context that went nowhere, so then you can make the money later on a sequel that will hopefully go where we want it to go for these two characters, and see them together and see them actually start, like you say, courting each other. They don't quarter each other. That's not good. That's bad. That's a torture technique. Oh. They court each other. But will that sequel be good? Will that sequel give you finally what you want? Or is it just another kind of half-assed attempt at, like, well, let's wring the rest of the juice out of this lemon. Like, let's just squeeze every bit we can. And it's uninspired. And then when it starts feeling uninspired, then you're like, well, why are we even doing it?
I also do have to say that this, at least Unintentional Love Story, was based off of a webtoon, like a webcomic.
Okay.
So I don't know how the original author
ended that story.
Yeah. So we don't even know. I haven't read it, so I don't know. But I do hope there is a season 2 because I do really like the two actors. It seems like Dou's, doing quite a bit more roles in different dramas. So who even says they have time to do a sequel?
Yeah, that's another roadblock when it comes to, we talked about it a little bit, before, about how, Francis and like your availability determines whether you can do stuff. And it's not just we want to make art, so we will make art. There's things that have to be, logisticized in order to get things done. And so, like, how crappy would it be if they want to do a sequel and they want to give you the story that you kind of need from these two characters? Because the characters are good. I like the characters. I like the actors. I like their chemistry. There's a lot to like here. I just think they fell short on what it was they gave us.
Yeah.
And how sad would it be is if they want to give us this something great and they can't make it work for logistical reasons and then have to abandon it, and this is all we got? It kind of sucks.
It's funny because I want to jump through what just being able to, for me at least, for feeling the emotions and the tension, I just want to jump and be like, I give it Around the World in 80 days.
Top of the top.
Right? But settling down and letting my brain take over rather than my heart. I would say In the Buffet Line, there were some issues, I feel like, in structure for this movie or this drama, however, whatever you want to call it.
It's both.
Yeah.
It's a hybrid.
It's a hybrid.
It is the Prius of Korean dramas.
Oh, stop. We know how you feel about Priuses. Anyway. So, yeah, In the Buffet Line, for me, there were some issues, but for the most part, I really liked it. I really liked the actors. I really like the chemistry. I like the romantic tension. I like the sexual tension. I like the, character background. And I felt, I really felt for Doi. That fucking sucks, when your family member hurts you. And then just him making excuses.
Mm-hmm.
That part was just heartbreaking. And then the conversation that he has with Hote's mom, that's just that is also heartbreaking. And I feel for Doi. So yeah, In the Buffet Line.
I would love to rate it higher because I do feel there's a lot of emotional content that I should have felt. Like everything you just said, I just so much agree with. Because I understand it, but I still didn't feel it because what I felt was frustrated watching it a little bit. Because it felt like something that could be good if it was given the chance to be good. And then I just felt like you just handicapped the whole thing. You just put it at a disadvantage by choosing the structure, by choosing to do a prequel and not really giving us an ending, and just these types of things really frustrated me. So I can't really give it much better than stepping out to get fresh air, because I did find myself being more frustrated than enjoying it. And I wanted to be with these two in their journey. And I couldn't get there, which is disappointing because I do think it's a missed opportunity. It's not a bad story, and and they're not bad characters, and it's not a bad dynamic, and it just feels like this could be a thing I really, really love. And it's just not.
Yeah, I wish production was better.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely feel it's a production issue and not a material issue and not really a character issue or actor issues. I feel like they needed more time and money on it, to be honest.
You know what? There's a saying I can't remember the exact saying, but it says like it takes 12 consecutive mistakes to crash a plane. Meaning like something goes wrong, and then instead of doing the right thing, you make a mistake that makes the problem worse, and then you make the mistake and it makes the problem even worse. And there are so many fail safes that you actually have to make 12 mistakes before the plane actually goes down. And it really felt like this show made like 4 or 5 of them, where it just felt like, oh, I just want this to like pull up out of the nosedive as far as, like you say, the production aspect of it and the decision aspect to make it a series rather than a movie, whether that was money motivated or creative motivated or someone just thought it was a fantastic idea. Oh, we'll add these little epilogues and it'll be so cool. It felt like there was just too many mistakes for me to like pull this up and go, oh man, I really enjoyed it. But you know, maybe they'll give us a sequel and it'll be very, very satisfying, and then I'll eat my words and say, oh, you know, as a part of a whole, it's grand.
Yeah. So this week we have a recommendation. It's a song by Jake Miller and Wang Ziyi. It's called How on Earth. I think it fits, their characters really well. And I hope that they have that happy ending.
Cool. So you can check that out. What? Spotify, Apple Music, wherever music is consumed.
Yeah.
Probably.
Pretty much. So definitely check out Instagram, where I will be posting this song.
Yeah, and maybe you can go buy the physical CD, huh? Novelty. Find yourself a CD store. Go buy a physical CD. Physical media is where it's at, people. It's coming back.
Where do you go to buy a physical CD?
They have those like K-pop stores still. I mean, most of it's super popular.
K-pop.
No, I know, but like Walmart. Walmart still has a CD bin. Walmart? Anybody? If anybody out there knows where you can buy a CD these days.
Well, I don't know if this will be available on hard copy, but anyway.
I hope someone finds it and then they can tell us all about it.
Yeah. I mean, maybe like Yes Asia. I don't even know if Yes Asia will have it.
Does Yes Asia still exist?
Yeah, it does.
Oh, wow.
I've gotten stuff from... It's funny, my friend bought Nick the Real albums from Yes Asia.
See, there you go. Physical media.
Yeah, anyway.
Well, that does it for this episode. Make sure you are checking out our Instagram page at DramaMeans_podcast so you can see our different things we do there and the recommendations for the past episodes and all that good stuff. So make sure you're liking and subscribing and following and all the things that you do on Instagram.
Yep. Thanks for listening.
See you next time.